get to learn more about him and follow him. What's going on, Dick? How are you today, man?
Hey, Patrick, I'm great. I'm great, thanks. Thanks
Good.
for having me on.
Yeah, man. So tell folks who are not initiated a little bit about Dick Colligan.
Sure, yeah. There's a lot to say. I was, your typical kind of Wall Street investment banker for about 10 years. Living in New York City, I started randomly doing stand-up comedy on the side.
Mm-hmm.
Um, After just for fun because there's a comedy club every 4 feet in New York
Yeah,
City.
absolutely, there is.
And yeah, that was in around 2018, and then 2020 happened, and suddenly the world got turned upside down
Boy,
with
didn't it?
COVID, and yeah, and New York was like the worst. So I basically, my job was like, hey, I was living in Florida. I moved to Florida for like 6 months because New York was so insane.
Yeah.
My job was like, hey, it was all work remote, and then they're like, we're going to go back to the office, and by the way, you have to get a shot if you're going to come work for us. And I was like, all right,
Oh,
well, I'm not doing that.
no.
So, uh, bye bye Wall Street,
Right,
and
right, right. So that's why you left the
yeah,
investment banking business?
pretty much.
No, I
I mean, it
understand.
was just New York in general was just so nuts, and no one knew, when it was going to stop. So,
Right.
um, and I'd always wanted to be in the entertainment world. I wanted to be an actor, and I had just gotten a manager, and was had
So
just booked a movie role. So I was like, great, I'll just ride off into the sunset and
right.
and do that.
So were you doing stand up in Florida already since you'd moved down there? Had you found a place yet to do stand up at that point?
Yeah, that was also one of the things. One of the reasons that I went down to Florida was because in New York, like every club was closed.
Yeah.
They were closed for like you know 2.5 years.
Yeah.
It was like insane. I mean, just thinking about it now, I'm like,
It
was this
really is
real
great.
life?
No, it really is crazy, isn't it? When you look back at it, especially with the lens of 2024, it seems more insane than ever to think about, doesn't it? But I mean, I think
And yeah,
all of us, though, first of all, I think the first 6 months, everyone was scared to death. Is this a zombie apocalypse? Are we all going to die? What's going to happen here?
right.
And then, by that point, we're somewhat institutionalized, and then they kept
Yeah,
stretching it. And man, it was crazy, really. And a lot of people never came back from it, Dick.
that's right. Yeah, and yeah, so I did start doing comedy in Florida, which was great. I mean, it was one of two states, basically maybe three, that you could actually do comedy,
Right.
and 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 then I just said, all right, well, I'm just gonna do this, full time, and
You
so
just
I've
pushed,
been
you
I've
went
been
all in on it.
cranking it.
Okay.
Yeah, I just burned the ships and went all in, and just been cranking it for the last 3 years.
Well, was it a good decision?
I mean, yeah, you're in comedy. You know how it is.
I do know how it is, man. It's you know what? Some days are great and some aren't, right? I mean, honestly, that's just
Yeah,
how it works in the business. Now, I know that
yeah,
you recently, or not too far back, were in a pretty critically acclaimed film. Is that right?
yeah. I was in a movie. It's on Amazon right now. It's called The Hanging of. Actually, it's called Tales from the Old West. It's a double feature,
Okay.
and I play the one of the lead characters in that, a guy named William Kane, and it was great. It was like a dream come true. And I tell people this story a lot because it's interesting, but like I wanted to be an actor since I was 5 years old.
Right. I get that.
I
I
saw
get that.
Star Wars, and I wanted to be Luke Skywalker when I grew up.
Of course you did.
And then at a certain point, I realized that job had been filled.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Sadly, it
so the
was.
next thing was like,
Same
all
for
right,
me
well,
and
if I can't
Indiana
do that,
Jones.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I was like, all right, well then, then the next thing is just to be an actor. But I grew up in like upper middle class Connecticut. Nobody was an actor. Everyone like worked on Wall Street. So
Sure. Sure.
that dream kind of went away for like 25 years, and then what happened was 2018. it just kind of came back to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I basically was like, what, let's give it a shot. And I'd always loved stand up also. So I'm like, what, let's just go for it, see what happens. And, I didn't really think it would turn into a full-time career necessarily, but that's kind of how these things work.
No, that's amazing. Now, how did you end up? Obviously, stand up and acting, while they're relative, they're not the same. And I'm going to guess that something with the tentative title, "The Hanging of William Kane's," not a comedic performance. I assume that this is a more dramatic role. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's very, very
I
dramatic.
assumed it may
Um,
be. How did you end up in that film then?
uh, you know, I basically got it through a referral from someone, and then I auditioned, and then this is a funny story. I basically, I somehow figured out from the emails when I sent the audition in, the casting director forwarded it to some people, to the producers,
Okay.
and it was on a Google Drive share thing. So I got a notification to the emails that it got forwarded to.
Okay.
So I figured, okay, this has to be the producers.
Right.
So I looked them up, I found their phone numbers, and I started calling them
Really? You
and
started
leaving messages
campaigning for yourself?
as the character, saying,
Really?
"Hey, this is William Kane. You got to hire this guy, Dick Colligan, man. He's the guy. He's just the guy to play this role. You just got to bring him in."
Yeah.
And I did that for probably about a month and a half,
Until you got the cease and
and
desist?
I don't even know if it got me the role. I have
You
no idea.
never
They never
asked.
told me.
Okay.
No,
I would have
they
had to
never
have
told me.
known
But
if my drip campaign did it.
I didn't really care at that point. I got the job. Who cares?
Now that's exciting.
But that's, so I don't know if it was that. I don't know if it was my dashing good looks or my,
Right. Of course.
great
Yeah.
accent. Who knows? But that was pretty much how it happened. Yeah, I went crazy because I just really, really wanted the job,
Now
and that's how it is.
okay. Now I know that you've been in New York. Were you born there?
I was born in Chicago, and then I grew up in Connecticut outside New York, and then in New York. And so I've been in and around New York for like probably 30 years.
So why is it that you have no New York accent? Did you weed that out? You
Yeah.
worked on that?
Well, I do have an accent. If you fuck around with me, we'll start to get serious. We'll start
Right.
talking.
Right. Right. Yeah.
We'll
That's
start
the
being real New York with you if you want.
Okay. Yeah. See, I'm the same way.
But
If I release my Southern drawl and I start saying I want to, it'll come out. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah, I'm with you.
exactly. So no New York accent really, which is good actually for acting, because even when I was doing this movie, I'd be off the camera or whatever, and people were like, "You don't sound like you're Southern at all," and I'm like, "Well, I'm not." And not having a real accent means that I can adopt any other
That's
accent.
right. No,
You know?
it's when you can, just make it universal. It's amazing, what you can do with it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, how did you, even prepare for a role of this magnitude with that amount of gravity and seriousness about it? How did you approach the character? How did you get into character?
It wasn't really that hard, because for some reason when I just read the script,
Hmm.
even when I just read, they just give you 2 pages really to audition.
Oh, okay.
And when I read that, I was like, I just instantly got who this guy was, you
Okay.
know. And I even got the voice, I got the demeanor, and it was really kind of easy for me to do that. I did theater in high school, and
Okay.
so it wasn't like it's a very different role from who I am, but
Right. But it wasn't too
it
far of
wasn't
a
hard for
stretch.
me to it wasn't really hard for me to discover who that character was.
No,
And
it's not
it's
like you're
funny because this
playing
was the
a
first.
Mexican amputee or something. I mean, yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's real acting.
That
Uh,
definitely would be.
yeah, I had to learn how to ride a horse for the role.
Yeah.
Um,
Was that intimidating
that
to
was
you?
cool. A little bit, yeah. I'd ridden once before in Montana, and then so so I could credibly say when I auditioned, yeah, I know how to ride a horse.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And but I brushed up a little bit before the role. And that was cool. I mean, I it's great. I love Westerns. It's a
Who
real,
doesn't?
the movie, like I said, it's on Amazon, Tales from the Old West. Um, and the movie is a really like classic Western,
Okay.
and that's the kind of great thing about that genre is it hasn't really changed. It's like very much true American values,
Yeah.
and Tales from the Old West is that in spades. So
And you know what?
I
People
I
who
was
love
really happy
West,
with how it came out, and it's a good one to watch.
yeah, people who love Westerns are very committed to Westerns. I mean, they really are passionate about it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
So
there's a whole. I learned this after the fact. There's a whole community of people, and they will nitpick like
everything.
every detail from your role, like your costume, your
Yeah,
wardrobe. Was
what
it
your
period correct?
holster's
And
made
actually,
of, what all the, what did, well, that wasn't in 1882 or whatever. Yeah, they'll get you, won't they?
yeah, you sound like you've done a western.
Well, I've done a few roles, and I get how that is, man. So you get into stand up, you start making the rounds. What is it that connected with audiences and you? What made it work for you with your audience?
Um, I, I'm pretty like. I guess I would say like I only really go up if I have something to say.
Yeah.
If I have something that I really want to get across to
Mm-hmm.
people.
Mm-hmm.
And, one of the things that I started doing comedy for was, I started in 2018, 2019. New York City was, extremely like, it's very politically correct. It's
Right.
extremely left.
Of course. Yeah.
And I'm not left to center. I'm not really a huge politics person, but I just look at like common sense and the stuff that I was seeing, even in 2018, 2019 was like, this is weird because, Trump was in office and every joke, every comedian was just
Mm-hmm.
getting up and ripping on Trump. And I'm like, all right,
No,
that's funny sometimes, but
you know what?
people would just, that would be their whole act.
I agree with you because of course I'm a little bit older, and I've my entire life I've watched presidents be lampooned by comedians. Every president that's ever been
Yeah.
in office, and that's always been the case. But there was
Right.
a change. Everybody knows this to be true, and not only did people become singular minded in their focus, but somehow it took a much darker, meaner turn than the comedy we were used to with regard to, political things.
Sure. Yeah, and that was really kind of the thing for me was I just started really just going to the opposite of whatever I saw people doing.
Yeah.
So like I would I started doing jokes and I joke about both sides because I think, like you should.
Well, yeah.
They're both funny.
No,
They're
no.
both funny.
I heard a line just this week that may have been one of the better lines I've ever heard when it comes to that. Because like yourself, I don't identify with a party. I'm a common sense person, but I was talking to another person and they said, you know what, left wing, right wing, it's the same bird fucking me. And that's fact.
100%.
That's it. I mean, that's the facts, and I've come to accept that. And once you accept that, life is a lot easier. I don't have to put a flag up or declare a team. I'm just going to go with what makes sense to me.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I have a joke this election where I was like, it's tough because you got the guy who can't talk, and then you got the girl who can't talk, even worse.
Yeah, right.
So I went with C, none of the above,
Yeah.
because I hate multiple choice.
So tell me this, jumping into comedy, obviously you had some kind of influences when you were growing up. If you had to cite, one or two comedians you'd say who were pretty influential in your excitement about comedy, who would it be?
The guys who I grew up with were, I grew up in the 90s. So Jerry Seinfeld.
Okay.
Jim Brewer.
Yeah.
Dana Carvey.
Okay.
And Chris Rock were really the ones that I heard the most.
Yeah, you're big SNL stars, a lot of them, all great comedians in their own right. Chris Rock
Absolutely.
was a really influential comedian for me. But I learned something about him that to me was a little bit fascinating. Um, I had a lot of people. My comedy name, my character is Angry Patrick, and I rant.
Right. Right.
I get silly. But people would often come up and say, "Hey, man, were you inspired by Sam Kinison?" And I'd be, no,
Ah,
I really never watched Sam
wow.
like that. I mean, I've seen Sam, but I never watched Sam. You know what I mean? It just
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
me, in my mind at least. Um, and then I was watching Chris Rock be interviewed, and I'll be damned if he didn't say that Sam Kinison was his biggest influence. And I was like, I guess
Wow.
indirectly, yeah, I did get influenced by
Right.
Sam Kinison. But Eddie Murphy was the first one with the red jumpsuit. It was called
Oh yeah.
Delirious, and it was just
Yeah.
you couldn't even do the set today, half of it. But it was at the time.
Right.
No, no, trust me, you couldn't. But it's so groundbreaking. It was so amazing and so filthy. And I was a teenager, so I was like, "This is the coolest shit I've ever seen in my life. I got to do it." I got to be that
Wow.
guy. And so I did. I started my first stand up I did. I was 18. The comedy club let me come in just to do the open mic somehow.
Wow.
And then I
Wow.
walked away for many years from it. I was successful that night, but I loaded the deck with all my buddies. So of course I was going to be successful, but uh, but but
Yeah.
but I came back
So
around to
you
it.
went out on top.
Yeah, I went out on top and came back. Uh, yeah. So of all the places now that you perform, do you have a favorite?
I really like I really like Broadway Comedy Club in New York. That was the first place. Actually, Greenwich Village Comedy Club was the first place I really performed, but Broadway Comedy Club was kind of the bigger venue, and I've been back there a lot, and I like them a lot.
That's cool. Do
Yeah,
you?
that's probably
I'm going to throw
probably
you
the big one.
just a random question, and this is about a 99 billion chance to one. You have no clue because it's New York, okay? But I happen to know a guy who moved to New York to become a comedian, okay? And he's from Arkansas. He's got like I don't know, 7 kids. But after having all these kids, he realized that somehow he wanted to play for the other team. And but he moved to New York to do comedy, and he's been there quite a while. His name's Michael Mumphrey. Do you, by chance, have you run into him in the comedy clubs?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I think I would recognize that
yeah,
story.
yeah. No. It's a great story. He's been successful. He's done very well. He's a good kid. I say kid. He's probably in his late 20s now, maybe even early 30s. I don't know. But okay.
You know,
So
it's such a funny industry because, you know, like when I got to Wall Street, I thought, okay, it's a meritocracy, right? Like the
hmm
smartest person, best ideas,
right,
that's who goes to the top. And in some cases that's true, but in a lot of cases it's still political.
sure it is. Yeah,
Comedy, I think, is really probably the number one meritocracy of any industry I've ever run into. Because
you,
it's like,
if you're good, you're good.
at the end of the day, you have to be funny.
Yeah, if you're good, you're good.
Right.
Topic be damned because I've worked with some great I worked with Ralphie May, and he's from
Oh
Arkansas.
wow.
Yeah, he's from Arkansas, and I performed with him a few times and got to know him. And Ralphie absolutely was beyond the pale when it came to explicit nature of his comedy. But because he was so damn funny, it didn't matter. It's just like, if you're a political comedian, but you're funny enough, it doesn't matter.
That's
The,
right.
the topic is irrelevant if you're more funny than offensive. By 51-49 split, if you're 51% funny and 49% offensive, you're good. You're good. Don't flip that.
That's right.
Don't flip it. But yeah. So of all the folks
Yeah, and
that,
it's
yeah,
the only thing that I've ever done. I've never gotten any lessons, or I never took a class. I have no
right.
training at all in comedy. I just started purely from observation, and I made every mistake I think that you can make. And it was painful. I mean, you
Yeah,
know how it is.
of
You
course.
go up there and bomb. It's like you want to jump off a cliff. But to me, it's kind of like a very important art form because it is so honest, and it is the last really refuge of free speech.
No, it
You know,
absolutely is the
because,
front line of it. You know, if you look
right,
historically, the comedians are always pushing the issues forward. And
right,
historically, they've had the ability and the latitude to do it. Only in recent years has that been challenged to some degree. But I think now we've turned that corner back around thanks to Chappelle, Bill Burr, you know, who came out and really pushed back on, you know, the whole let's shut down offensive comedy stuff. But
and even Gaffigan,
oh,
of all
Gaffigan, yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah. No, Gaffigan is he's an amazing performer. Honestly, Jim is I say he does what I call base level comedy, and that might sound bad at first, but it's not. The most rudimentary things. I mean, hot pockets, bacon, and ketchup, and he's got staple bits about it. He takes the very baseline of what is broadly relatable and makes it a lot
Yeah,
funnier. And does so cleanly.
right.
You know, I'm not a clean comic. I respect it, but I'm not. You know, I'm not
Yeah, and
tawdry
not only that, but
necessarily.
he also, it would be easy for that stuff to be like, you know, old, right? Because you also in comedy, like originality counts, right?
Yes, of
If I
course. Yeah,
make a funny joke, but it's the same stuff that people have been saying for 25 years, it's all
absolutely.
right, it's fine. But he's able to do that with, like you said, very everyday relatable subjects, and it's not old, and it's
No,
not
no,
corny, and it's not.
no. He
It's
uses
really fascinating.
no. He is a clinic on misdirection, and pulling the rug out from under you. He's very good with it. Uh, so tell me this: of all the people that you've run into in your movie roles, your travels, your comedy, and everything, who made you the most starstruck?
Huh. Man. Um. Gosh. Well, I haven't met. So actually, I run a guitar business.
Okay, interesting.
In addition to my comedy work, and my uncle was a really famous guitar maker,
Oh,
and so basically, I took over his business. He died last year.
okay.
It's called Max Guitars.
Max Guitars.
MaxGuitars.com
Okay.
is the website. And we sell to very, very heavy hitters, guys that
Yeah.
He was Eddie Van Halen's guitar builder for about 25
Really?
years.
Really? Wow. That's
Yeah,
impressive.
Slash, Billy Gibbons, Derek Trucks. I mean, any Joe
The
Perry,
names of the names.
anybody you've ever Joe Walsh,
Yeah.
anybody you've ever listened to in the last 35 years
He
of
probably.
rock and roll has one of his guitars.
Okay. So now you take over. What do you do? Do you just run the business now, oversee
I
it,
run the
or
whole thing. Yeah, I run the whole thing.
I mean, are you
I
a
build
guitar
guitars, but
player? Do you build them?
I play. Yeah, I play. I've been playing for 22, 3 years. I
Really?
don't build them,
Okay.
but I sell them, market, all that
Okay.
stuff.
Now,
Run the administration, all that. Yeah.
so let me ask this: given that, have you ever brought a guitar into your comedy?
I would like to. I have an idea for something.
Yeah.
You know, you know, I always look at Adam Sandler and what he did, and I'm like, man, the bar is so high. But there's one thing I'd like to do. I haven't learned the song I need to learn in order to do
Hmm.
it. That's really it.
I just think, it's so fertile to use music in comedy because you can mix and mingle things. You could take the guitar of one era and match it up to a different vocalist, and change things up. If you took a Pearl Jam song, start playing it, but you're singing it like XYZ, you can really
Yeah,
twist things up a little bit. And so I think
exactly.
I respect anyone who can play an instrument like that, fluidly, especially. So kudos to you. Sounds like you do a lot of different things. You're pretty sharp cat if you can do all that stuff, I'm guessing.
Uh, I'm never bored, man.
All right. No, I bet you're not. Now, a couple more questions here. Are you single? Are you married? What's your story there?
Married to my job.
That's good enough. Yeah, I feel you on that. Yeah, you stay busy, you grind all the time. No, I get that. All right, okay.
Yeah.
Where do you see what's the next thing for Dick? I mean, what's the next big step for you, man? Where you headed?
Um, I'd like to. I would like to do some bigger like studio blockbuster movies.
Yeah.
Lead roles in that. I wrote a pilot for a TV series, so I'd like to get that made. I'd like to do sort of more
So you're kind of
future
working
work or
towards
headline
that
work
film
at
work.
some clubs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Looking at
yeah,
film
just
work.
that's right. Um,
Well, the good thing,
and keep things just in moving in the right direction.
absolutely. The great thing I think about being a comedian is if you're really a comedian, you're also a writer, and
Absolutely.
that lends
Yeah.
itself very well to being able to write screenplays, shows, things like that. It's always amazing to see the different writing styles, because they play out in your comedy. But a lot of people probably don't stop and think about most comedians could probably write as well dramatically or any other way as they could comedically. It's just which device they're picking at the time. It's just the way the brain works.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, yeah. Do you ever miss being a banker, an investment banker? Do you miss it ever?
Uh, when I look at my bank account, um,
That's comedy. That's comedy right there.
yeah,
That's that. I bet you could do 10 minutes just on that right there, just on the difference in
I do have
this.
I do have about 5 to 6 on that.
Yeah, I was going to
Absolutely.
say that transition and what the difference is, this life versus this life, has got to be an amazing contrast that you can demonstrate and has to bring the people to your side because you were the man
Yeah,
and now you're one of them, right? More in theory, in
that's
the way
right.
they perceive it, right?
100%.
That from Prince to Pauper,
100%.
so to
Absolutely.
speak, and
Yeah, right.
jokingly,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. No, you're completely right. Yeah.
Now what a great story, and what a great story it'll be, Dick, when you bounce all the way back up, and you're able to go, yep, Prince to Pauper to King. You know what I mean? That'll be cool,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I'm gonna maybe I'll hire you as my co-writer.
Hey, man, I'm a good one. I'll
Pretty good.
tell you
That's a
that.
pretty good title you just came up with right there.
Man, I've been doing it a long time, my man. I've been doing it a long time. I started writing when I was a kid and started doing comedy many, many years ago. And I was a
Wow.
movie critic and I've been a radio personality for 20 years here in my market. And so I've done a lot of different things. Plus, I spent about 25 years in management of fairly big companies like Comcast and things like that. So I've had a pretty diverse background, kind of like you, and but yeah, writing and that quick marketing mind has served me well. There's a lot of things I can't do. I promise you that. Don't ask me to fix the car. I can't do that shit. I'll try, but it's not my forte. But if you need me to come up with an idea or write something, bro, we'll make a joke out of something, or we'll make it dramatic, whatever we need to do, for sure. So yeah, man,
Absolutely.
whenever you get to that place, holler at a player, and man, I'd love to write with you. It's always fun to collaborate with other creators. It's always a great time.
Totally agree.
All right, now if people want to find you, Dick, how do they get to you? What's the easiest way to get? I need more Dick Colligan in my life. How do I get it?
It's pretty easy actually.
Okay.
I'm very accessible. DickColligan.com.
Okay.
DickColligan.com.
Okay.
Or at Dick Colligan on every social media under the sun.
Okay, so yeah, pretty easy. Just type at Dick Colligan somewhere, and you're going to end up where Dick is. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
100%.
All right. Then you could get Dick in bulk. What? I didn't say that. I don't know what I'm talking about. All right, man. Listen.
We'll take it out in post.
Yeah, no, we're not. We're going to leave it in. Hey, man, listen. I appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing a little bit about yourself. And I hope that all of our folks will be looking and checking out Dick and watching him grow and succeed. And hopefully you'll come back and be part of it again here.
I'd love to. Thanks, Patrick.
All right, man. Hey, have a great night. Okay.
You
Thanks,
too.
brother.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thank everybody out there. Y'all have a good one.